Hey, you're listening to the Today's Eden podcast, episode 10. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening in today. I have an awesome story by an awesome, amazing woman, Carol Hampshire, and I met her through an online networking group, and I just heard her story and I thought it was amazing and really inspiring, and so I wanted her to share that with you guys and why living outside the lines is important, not only for yourself, but as an example to your children. And you guys, you have to listen to her story. It involves sharks and freezing cold water. And it's kind of awesome because even as you get older, you can achieve so much more than you think that you can. And her story just goes to show that age, life, nothing can get in the way of anything that you want to achieve. You just have to be all in achieving it and do it. If you're like me, you have absolutely zero time to sit down and physically read a book, but putting headphones on is pretty easy. You can try Audible for free for 30 days at audibletrial.com/today'seden and check out some of these books that our guests on the show say are their most influential books. All right, you guys, let's do this. Hey, everybody. I have Carol Hampshire on the call with me today, and I am excited to have her on because she did something really awesome, something that I think took a lot of guts and maybe a little bit of crazy. But Carol, thank you so much for being on the show. Can you share a little bit about your story and who you are?
Ashley, hi. Thank you so much for having me today. Yes, so my story is, you're right, it's a little bit crazy. I decided to swim one of South Africa's hardest swimming events, which is a 7.5 kilometer or 4.6 mile swim in extremely cold water. It's called the Robben Island Freedom Day Swim. And I decided last year, that's right, 2016, to actually complete the swim.
And do you know why it's known as the hardest or the third hardest swim in the Southern Hemisphere?
That's a really good question. I know that there are a lot of harder swims, but I think there's a combination of that. The conditions are very unpredictable. So in other words, we're talking cold water, which is a big deal. To swim about 2 to 3 hours in that kind of temperature is very, very hard. So it's not so much the distance, it's the cold combined with, we like to call it the marine life. If you can read into that, there are certain large animals, aquatic animals, that could be dangerous to the swimmer. So they are there, as well as things like currents as well. And in my swim, personally, I experienced a lot of jellyfish, stinging jellyfish, which was something that I didn't realize. So it's a combination of elements that make the swim pretty tough.
Mm-hmm. Did you know, I guess you just said you didn't realize the jellyfish, but going into it, were you afraid, or did you think about the fact that you'd be swimming with sharks and jellyfish?
That's also a good question. Yes, I knew that. And the funny thing is, a lot of the open water swimming community, we really just don't think about that. It's in the back of our mind. But the chances of that happening are really slight. It's not impossible at all, but it's such a slight chance. I think we have a lot of really, we put a lot of trust and faith in our support team. There are helicopters. Was a sighting, then we would have been notified of that. I think when any swimmer goes into an event like this, if they choose not to wear a wetsuit like I did, I think the cold is more of the thing that people are thinking about, more so than the animals, fish. mammals,
Right.
whatever they are. Yeah.
Was there a reason you chose not to wear the wetsuit?
I have these moments that I just kind of put my name down and do it. And yes, I'm going to do no wetsuit just because I wanted to really experience the full, um, I- the full swim in its entirety. It's meant to be swum without a wetsuit. So I really wanted to do that. And, I would wake up in the morning scared because I would say, what on earth are you doing? Why did you put your name down for something like this? Why did you not want a wetsuit? Are you crazy? But so I have these two sides of me. One is the one that's kind of pushing me all the time to do things like that. And the other one's lagging behind saying, it's kind of that part of me that wants to stay safe and not push myself further.
And I want to talk about that more, the pushing to be uncomfortable part. But I want to know, before we get into that, what kind of training you had to do this kind of swim. Was there any sort of preparation that you needed to do? Because it sounds like a pretty intense swim for how long it was. And then also enduring the water factors, like you said, the cold and then the current. Was there any training you had to do?
So the distance of 7.5 kilometers, or about 4.6 miles, that's quite easy to train up to. And I was swimming regularly on a swimming group. I would also do open water swims. So I think the distance wasn't, you can build yourself up to that kind of distance. So if you're a runner, you can build up to kind of couch to 5Ks to kind of a marathon run over time.
Right.
And I had done that. So I was confident on preparing myself for the distance. I think there's things that you can't prepare yourself for. And one of them was just swimming in an area where there was just nowhere where you can really stand. So you're swimming out and it's kind of deep ocean. The lagoon that I swim in is a very safe and area where you can swim and there's place to stand. So it's a very kind of safe environment. And I did go to a couple of open water swims in Cape Town to try and acclimatize myself to the cold. And I really enjoyed that. There were smaller swims. They were probably like half an hour swims. But nothing, I didn't really prepare myself to the extent of, being in cold water for 3 hours in that environment. So that was a bit of a shock. And the only way I could do that was actually doing the swim.
Okay. How long did it take you to finish the swim?
It took me, I was very disappointed with my time. My first attempt was 3 hours. So it took me about 3 hours to swim that distance. And one of the reasons was that I was so disappointed was that I kind of had quite a long rest halfway between. And I say that in a way that's a bit of a joking way because I kind of got freaked out. The truth is I kind of had a wobbly in the middle of the ocean. And I'm not afraid to say that because it was really overwhelming. And if I had kept on swimming, then I would have had a much better time. Right. I probably would have gone in around 2 hours, 30 minutes.
What was going through your mind when you made that stop, when you were kind of, was it like a second guessing of yourself or?
I think I just hit a wall. I got pretty nauseous because the swell was kind of pushing me up and down. So physically I was struggling a little bit because of the cold,
right.
But I think it was more than just physical. I've got to take into account my mental state at that moment. And I think I just kind of got, just stopped for a second. There was jellyfish all around me, which was really kind of freaking me out. I hadn't experienced that before. Right. So there were literally millions of them. It was like being in, a set of David Attenborough. And I can imagine his voice explaining, they were beautiful to watch, but it really was quite terrifying to have them around me like that. And I was getting stung quite a lot.
Oh my gosh.
I think just also to be in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
there was a voice in my head that said to me, you shouldn't be here, which is just my subconscious saying, trying to keep me small.
Right.
And that's what happens in situations like this. When you put yourself into a situation like this, you are going to have those kind of voices in your head that says to you, what are you doing here? Like, I told you not to do this, and like you here. So I just had to kind of pull myself together at that moment. And that took a while, but I eventually did that.
What were some of the things that you had to tell yourself to kind of keep going to finish the rest of the swim?
I told myself all kinds of things. I really did. So I knew that I might hit this kind of wall. And I had a whole pocket of things to remember to encourage me, don't give up, and, you can't be a failure. And, I did try and inspire myself. I really did. And that wasn't working. The support group, the support people on the boat, they were also very encouraging. I think that after a while, it wasn't about my physical being or my mental being. It was just about my spirit at that stage. And I think my spirit kind of has a very quiet voice, and it just kind of wanted to get on and do it and was really enjoying it. So I didn't realize it at the time. And it's hard to articulate that into, to somebody and explain that. Right. But it was just something that I really wanted to achieve this for no other reason than my spirit wanted to achieve it, not for any other reason. It was a very personal and deep achievement that I wanted to do. And I think that's what got me going, more so than the kind of cheerleading voice in my head,
right.
Pushing me along. It was that kind of spirit that I wanted that really pushed me through.
More like the satisfaction of knowing that you can do it, like more so for yourself, like a proving to yourself kind of way.
It was. Yeah. That's exactly it. Just something very quiet, and it was just kind of something that I wanted to achieve.
So knowing that the water would be freezing, that there were going to be mammals, like you said, in the water, what was the initial drive when you signed up to do the swim, when you wrote your name down on that list?
Sorry, you just broke up there a little bit. Would you mind just repeating that?
Yes, no problem.
Sorry.
I was saying, knowing that the water would be, freezing cold, and that there would be, mammals in the water, what drove you to initially sign up for the swim, to write your name down and say, I'm going to do this?
I had several swimming friends that had accomplished the swim. And I just really believed in myself that I could do it. I believed in my coach who was training me. I knew that he could get me there as well. And I really believed in, the group of open water swimmers that I swim with quite regularly. I believed that, they supported me in this. So I feel I was doing it for my community as well as myself. And it was just something that I wanted to do. I just have this urge to do things that are unusual or different. So it's a whole bunch of, I guess, reasons why I did that.
And I know that you have a teenager of your own. So, and for me, coming from a mom and having other mom friends and, our conversations, have you always been a swimmer? Because I'm just curious, thinking, when did you get involved in swimming? And then why was it important for you to have something that you were involved in outside of your home and your business? Because I feel like a lot of moms struggle with finding something that's their own outside of, parenting. And then, so I'm just curious what the reasons that you have the swim passion or, on the side, and what benefit that is to you, having that kind of community in your life.
So I started swimming really early. My first memory was of me nearly drowning as a 2.5-year-old little girl. And So my mom said that was it. You need to go to swimming lessons. So from the age of 3 onwards, I was swimming, and the coaches at the time realized that I had an ability. So I carried on swimming, um, swimming fraternity here. And they got to a stage, we're talking way back now, where I had reached the top of my swimming ability. I couldn't, because of the South African government, South Africa wasn't allowed to compete in the Olympic Games. And that meant that I couldn't go any further. I really couldn't. So I just gave up. And I'm sorry I did that. And I am sorry. However, it did give me the chance to focus on my life and building up a business for myself. So fast forward several years, and I was a single mom. I was raising my son, and I had completely not swum at all. So I had no inclination to swim. I didn't care about swimming. It wasn't even on my radar. And what happened was that I went to take my son to the little town in a place called Zimbabwe, where I was born, called Bulawayo. And I took him it was a hot day, I took him for a swim at the first swimming pool that I competed in when I was very young. And suddenly, when I swam with him, this kind of light bulb went on inside of me. And I felt that urge to swim again. And I felt like I really belonged, and I could feel the water. And so coming back from that holiday, I signed up and started swimming again. And I agree with you. I think that as women, entrepreneurs, as mom, as, wives, girlfriends, sisters, daughters, we do lose ourselves very quickly in the pool of life. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize at the time, but that's exactly what I was needing. Just something for myself, absolutely for myself, that I could escape everybody else and just be me. I know that, for me, that was swimming, but I know that there are so many other ways that women can do this, through yoga or running or meditation or some other outlet that is creative, that really just gives them that energy. And that's what swimming does for me. So that's why it's kind of a long-winded answer, but that is exactly how I came back into swimming, and I've kept it up because I do need to get away from my life sometimes and get in the water. It really does give me that energy that I need.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think that, and I've talked about this with, a couple other interviewers on this show, but just finding our own version of therapy is that's kind of what our outside passions become. And I feel like it's important for us, like you said, as moms, wives, sisters, girlfriends, to have our own thing that we can identify in. So no, I loved your answer. So I know that before this interview, and you and I had a conversation about your story, and you had mentioned that it was important for you to push yourself to be outside of your comfort zone. And I'm curious, why do you feel like it is important for you to be outside of your comfort zone?
I don't know if it's important, but for me, it's almost a need. So in terms of even my business, or my sport or my swimming, I feel that I do want to push myself. It's just a need. I don't like to stay where I am. I always want to improve somehow. It doesn't have to be faster, longer. It just has to be something different. And it gives me, we keep on coming back to the word of accomplishment. Mm-hmm. It gives me a deep sense of accomplishment to have done something like this. So, always be striving. And I guess the older I get, the more I don't want that part of me to die. I want that to keep on, feeling alive by doing something out of my comfort zone. That's a sense of accomplishment that is out of the norm, I guess, from what people normally do.
Has this made it easier, like completing this swim, has it made it easier for you to step out and pursue things that are more like in your normal daily life that's a little bit more challenging, do you feel like it's made it easier for you to pursue things that maybe before you wouldn't have pursued?
Totally, totally, totally. So that's why this is something that I feel in my business and my life. And that's why I'd love, to share with women the stories that they can be inspired and do something similar in their own lives. So, for example, um, I feel I have a lot more confidence. I have a lot more confidence in my ability to parent, believe it or not. I have, because it's a core worry for moms to have that. And also in my business, I want to keep on striving to do new things in my business. I've been doing the same thing for so long. And I think a lot of business owners might get into that rut of doing the same thing all the time. But how about doing something different? How about expanding in a certain way? So it's given me the confidence to do that as well.
Yeah, I think if I swam in open water with sharks and jellyfish, I would probably constantly be reminding my kids that I am awesome. Like, I'd be I'd be saying I did this, so you have to listen to me. No, but so speaking of our kids, did your child have any thoughts about your pursuit of swimming in this water, or after you achieved and accomplished the swim?
Um, yes and no. At this stage, he's a teenager, and teenagers don't really show too much interest in their parents' activities, just because they might feel that, but it's just not cool.
Right.
Um, so that's the best way I can describe it. So he didn't voice anything. He really hasn't. But I know that he's very extremely proud of me. And I think as a mom, I think we know that the best way to inspire our kids is to really be the person we want them to kind of be, or strive for, or, just be someone who pursues our dreams, for example. Even that is enough to inspire a child to perhaps pursue their dreams, seeing people around them doing that. Even if it's a little bit out of the ordinary, that's okay. So I want my son to see that. I want him to see that anything's possible as well. And know that if you put your mind to it, you can achieve it. So hopefully those kinds of lessons, that's going to stick with him. So I believe that as parents and as moms, it's really important for us to show our children that they can achieve what they want. So they look to us as their mentors. They really do. And they might not show that, but they are looking to us for inspiration. And the more we are able to live our dreams and to explore life in a way that's adventurous, will be passed on to them. So I think it's vital that we do that. It's a great lesson that we give to our children, to be able to believe that anything is possible and to show them that anything is possible.
I agree, and I think that is awesome, and I think of your swim as being something that's kind of outside the lines, which it shouldn't. I feel like it shouldn't be viewed that way, but I feel like we should all be kind of living outside the lines, if you will. But I think that that's an awesome way to tell our kids that it's okay. Like, this is, mom's doing this, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to be a little, off the edge, or a little thinking outside the box. And so, yeah, even I feel like, and I don't even know your son, but if I feel just like talking to you and hearing your story, and that I think even if he doesn't say it, that you're right, that there's a lot of things that he learned from that just by seeing you do it. And then I'm most definitely sure that he is proud of you. I'm proud of you. I don't even I'm like, yes. Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't make me want to swim, and I do not like the colds. I do not, even even in on the coast, like the Pacific Ocean in the summer when it's all these surfers are out there, I still like barely touch my toe in the water. And I'm like, no. So I probably wouldn't be the best at cold water swims. But before we ended this interview, I wanted to ask you a few pointed questions that I ask everybody on this show or on this podcast. But what is the most influential book that you've read?
So maybe one of your previous podcasts interviewers have mentioned this before, but mine is The Big Leap by Guy Hendricks. And that is basically a book that shares with the reader that just because you are good at doing something doesn't mean that is what you should be doing. He encourages you to find your zone of genius, which really is something that you have a gift for and that is unique to you, that comes natural to you. So that has completely, I guess, shifted my whole way of thinking, even in my business. So I do a lot of things, and I know a lot of your viewers, your listeners would relate to this, is that in their businesses, they might look at certain tasks and know that they're really good at doing that because they've done it so often. Mm-hmm. They've become an expert in that. But is that something that really brings them joy, like absolute joy? Does that fulfill their soul? Do they feel accomplished at the end of the day? So that book, coming back to the most influential book, has really made more things that I love to do. And that's scary because I'm leaving behind something that I'm good at and taking that leap of faith. It's called the big leap to do something that I believe in. And again, that takes confidence. So that to me has to be one of the best books that I've read.
Definitely need to check that one out. So what were you doing? So now you are a brand designer and business coach. So what were you doing before you started pursuing designing and coaching?
Good question. So it was almost before I read the book. So I used to do a lot of logo designs. I used to just churn them out. And I loved doing logo designs, but I was doing logo designs for kind of everybody. And I can do it because, yes, I am good at that. But that doesn't make me happy at the end of the day. It's hard to explain it. So I was extremely busy. I mean, I had so many clients, I just didn't know what to do with it. I had a team who were helping me. But I realized that what I really love to do is work with women entrepreneurs, women who have a message in the world that they want to get out to other people. I just love working with people like that, people that are just inspiring, people that are wellness coaches, people that have left their lives to now live in Costa Rica because that's what their calling is, and they've opened up a yoga studio. People like that are just fascinating to me. So I have now shifted my business to work probably 90% with people like that. So I don't just design logos, I design brands for them. I give them a voice because that's a personal brand now. They are the brand, and that lights up my life. I love, like I said, I probably can't say it enough. I love working for people like that, and that is my zone of genius, helping people really get their business out there. So I connect that entrepreneur with her audience, and that is something that I really love doing. I love seeing people successful. I love people having a dream and listening to that dream, and they share that with me, and I'm able to help push that dream into reality.
Yeah, that's definitely a beautiful desire to want to do that for others, and your work is beautiful. Because I've checked it out, and I know that I sent you a message, and I was just like drooling over the things that you have created. But so, speaking of women and your desire to help them, if you could empower women in one way, what would it be?
I would love to take women out of their environment and take them into a kind of retreat
Mm.
and work with them that way. Because, like we've been chatting about, life gets very overwhelming for women. I think as women, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to achieve the best in all areas of our lives. And the one thing that we do not look after, we don't take care of enough, is
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. And we tend to burn out pretty quickly. We tend to look after other people's needs instead of our own. So, what I'd love to do to empower women would be to take them away and just let them rejuvenate themselves, rejuvenate their spirits. Because once they've done that, I mean, anything is possible,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely anything. So I can relate to that firsthand. I know what it's like to feel burnt out, exhausted, drained, tired. Nothing would make me happy no matter what I did. And I realized that it was just taking time out of my life to really connect to who I am and these crazy dreams and schemes that I've got. And that's okay. Uh, get to know who I am, get to know what my zone of genius is. And that is what I would love to now focus on for the next year, 12 months, is to create some kind of retreat that women can go and do that they can come back into their lives, healthier, stronger, more spiritually aligned with their purpose in life, um, and get to know what's really, really important in their lives. And it's not just about earning X amount a month. It's about family, it's about love, it's about enjoying their lives and those deeper things. So that's kind of what I'd love to give back to women as a community.
That's awesome. I would love to see that happen. And hopefully, I can, if you and when you create a retreat, I can be one of the first ones to be on it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Um, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
I worry consistently. So the one thing I would tell myself, excuse me, as a young, if I could talk to my younger self, would be stop worrying about everything. I would always like to control things as well.
Mm.
So there had to be that way or no way at all. So I think the older I get, I'm becoming more flexible. Um, and I worry less about the future as well. I just trust in myself a lot more. So that's exactly what I would tell any young woman would be to just trust themselves. They have a lot of time and to just actually go a lot more with the flow.
Is there anything that you do on a daily basis or just regularly to keep yourself in tune with yourself and to be not as worried about the things that you used to be worried about? Or is that something that has just naturally kind of loosened up over the years?
I think age helps. And I also do, to any listener out there, I would, highly advise you to do something. It could be walking, it could be yoga, it could be something like cooking, um, something that just takes you out of your life and gives you immense joy. I think that what swimming does for me is that it brings me into that moment of stillness and of quietness. I struggle to meditate. I just struggle with that. I know people are very successful at doing that. So that is almost like my meditation. It's where a place where I can focus only on the sounds of the water, the feeling of the water on my body, me sliding through the water. Those are beautiful feelings and sensations, and um, that's what brings me a lot of joy. So, like I said, if you can find something like that in your life that brings you that joy, then do more of that. Do that on a regular basis. Don't ever deny that pleasure to yourself as a woman.
I think that a lot of listeners that I have, that's something that they struggle with is finding the time or
Mm.
finding something that is for themselves when they feel like they're overwhelmed or kind of stuck in the calling, even though it's a beautiful calling, but
Mm.
stuck in the calling that is motherhood. Was there a way that you kind of convinced yourself that, finding something for you was a must and not a maybe kind of thing, like it was something that needed to be done?
I think I'm one of those kinds of people that kind of has to look after my child above everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was smaller, I didn't allow myself to do these things. I really didn't. And I regret that now, but that's just how I can't turn back the time. But I know that if there are any listeners with younger children, I'd really recommend them just for, just finding that space in a day. They say even 10 minutes a day can completely change your whole outlook.
Mm-hmm.
And when my son got slightly older, and I obviously could leave him at home, which is a big deal. To a lot of the listeners, your children will get older and you will be able to leave them at home one day. And it will come. So be patient. And in that time, if they are still at home, you can carve out some time for yourself, even if it's to stretch or to color in or to dream or to just be quiet. But for me, as soon as I started swimming, I knew that I had the luxury of being able to, like I said, leave my son and go on my own and do it. So I'm lucky that way. And then after that, that became an absolute necessity. I know that it's part of what I need to do on a regular basis, or things will start to fall apart. And I say it lightheartedly.
Right.
In other words, I'll start getting grumpy, or it just kind of life is not as pleasurable, right, as it if I don't carve out some time for myself.
Kind of part of your wellness survival kit. Like, we all need to take a shower, we all need to do XYZ for us, but I think what we forget is to take care of ourselves in a mental, emotional and spiritual way. We only tend to focus on the physical, like our eating, our showers, our cleaning, stuff like that.
And don't forget that when we come back into the space of the family, we are able to give so much more. So we enhance the lives of the people in our life by looking after ourselves. So that's one thing that I don't think as women we actually realize how much of an impact we have. So if we're feeling tired and run down and exhausted, the best thing sometimes to do is to leave that environment, and even will immediately uplift your spirits. You come back into that environment a different person, and your family will enjoy that. So, my advice is, again, to try and carve out that time for yourself. You'll find all aspects of your life will improve.
Well, before we get off, I just wanted to acknowledge you for being an inspiration as a mother, because just hearing you talk about the important things that you feel to example for your son, or just the advice that you're giving to our listeners for mothers. And it's really inspiring, and also as an encourager and creator for other women through your business, even though I feel like there's so many ways that we can inspire each other. And for you, that's through designing, brands and websites and things of that nature, so other women can pursue their dreams and share their passions with the world, which ultimately benefits all of us. And so I just think that's an amazing pursuit, and I'm so glad that you're doing it, because it's beautiful work and you're great at it. And I'm just so glad that I got to have you on to share your story. When I first met you in the Facebook group that we are in together, and I heard you say that you swam with sharks in cold water, I was like, what? I need to hear more about this. I have what? I didn't even know. That's not something you just hear every day. Like, oh yeah, I just decided to swim in freezing cold water.
Well, before I say goodbye, I want to acknowledge you. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I really appreciate it. I'm a little bit tongue-tied, so it really means a lot to me. Thank you. And before I go, I just want to say that I I've got other plans. So I want to swim a mile in freezing cold water, which again is crazy. So that's something that I'm going to hopefully accomplish this year. So let's keep in touch. I'll keep you updated with my next challenge.
Yes, I would love to have you on again and talk about how you survive the next your next venture, and just maybe wear a wetsuit this time. No.
No wetsuit.
Oh my gosh.
But so I know it's crazy, but I love pushing myself in a way that's spiritually and emotionally and physically as well.
Well, this was a great chat, Carol. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much for listening. And as always, I hope that you enjoyed that episode. Having Carol on was amazing, and getting to know her has been equally as great. So I'm thankful that she took the time out to be with us. Make sure you go and check out the show notes, where I will link all the information about this episode and where you can purchase books that she mentioned. You can find that at todayseden.com/podcasts with an S at the end, podcasts/010. Yay, we're to the 10th episode. But there you can find all the podcast episodes with their show notes. And if you get a chance when you're listening on your podcast app or on iTunes, please review and rate this podcast. That would be amazing for me, and I would really, really appreciate that. And this time I just wanted to share a quote that kind of went with this episode, and it's by Howard Wallstein, and it says, "Do something uncomfortable today by stepping out of your box. You don't have to settle for what you are. You get to create who you want to become." So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thank you for listening, supporting the show. And as always, as you go out into the rest of the week, remember to do what they think you can't do.